Hi Savers, this is Mr. Schulte, and we are going to go over the process of creating a book cover for your Media Lit project on the ugly book cover. And the book of choice is a book written by Lois Duncan. It's called Killing Mr. Griffin. We're going to use Adobe Photoshop to do this. So if you don't have CS6 on your dock, you can go to Launchpad and open it there. And when you open up Photoshop, you should see a window with the Photoshop interface. This is your tool palette over here. These are some of your other windows that are available: color swatches, styles. We want to default and leave the layers window up. We have nothing open right now, so we're going to create a new project. Under File, choose New. And the default name, we will go with book cover. And I always put my initials with things if I can. It should be defaulted to inches, but it might say 5x7 for you when you start. You want to change it to the actual size of your book cover before it's folded up. And I've figured out that math for you. Miss Houston sent this book along, Killing Mr. Griffin, with a post-it note and explained the layout, that she would like an inside flap and a back cover, a spine on the book, a front cover, and an inside cover behind the front cover. So I did some measuring on the book and just laid this out, and the total across this is 15 1/8 inches for length, 6 3/4 for height. So 15 1/8 in Photoshop speak looks like 15.125, and the height of 6.75. The resolution in pixels per inch or PPI, anything over 100 is good and is going to print out just fine. And then the last thing, your background contents. We can do transparent. That might be a little confusing for you, so we'll just leave it as white. Click OK, and we get our basic, what our book cover would look like if it were taken off the book and folded out. So in order to help us with that layout, we're going to turn the rulers on. And right now mine are on because I left them on last time. But I'm going to uncheck that and show you what it'll look like for you. If we go under View and choose Rulers, we're going to get these guides on the side. And the cool thing is the 0, 0 point is right where the corner of the project is. If you notice, it lines up with 0 here, horizontally and vertically. And another cool thing, if I go over to my vertical ruler, click and hold down and drag over, I will pull a guideline from that. I'm going to go over to the 3-inch mark, which is going to be my back flap. I'm going to drop it there. Another one's going to go over to 7 1/4, because that 7 1/4 is my 3-inch back flap plus my back cover. I need another one that is 5/8 of an inch over from that, which would be to the 7/8 mark right there. That's my spine. I'm going to go 4 1/4 over from that, which would be 12 1/8. And that should leave me, if I go to the edge here, I can see to 15 1/8 with that 3-inch cover. So my math is done. I've got my book laid out, my book cover laid out. Next steps are to start inputting information. And let's start with text layers because they're kind of the basics. So I want to put my title up there. I'm going to click on the T for text tool. Come out here and I get this box around my cursor, which means where do you want to put text and do you want to put it inside a box? Well, I'm going to keep it on the front page, so I'm going to drag this like this, drop it here, and I can start typing. Change my font size right away because I know it's going to need to be bigger. I also know that my font color is going to be black, but I'm maybe going to start with that coral green or that. Mr. Griffin. And I want to center align that within this box and maybe make it a little bigger too. Okay, so I've got some text here. And if I click away from this, it's kind of hard to read because it's on that white background. So I'm going to add some cool effects to this. If I have the layer selected, the text layer, I can go under Layer, choose Layer Style, and I'm going to put a drop shadow on it to start. And you're going to see that's going to make it stand out from the background. I'm going to zoom in by holding down the Command key and hitting plus. And get in a little closer so I can see what this looks like. I can change the distance of that, how far it is away. I can change the spread of that, how big I want it, and also the size of the drop shadow, if I want it tight to the letters or not. But that makes it stand out a lot more. I can add a whole bunch of other things here too. I can add a gradient overlay to the text. I have to click on that gradient in order to actually see what's going on there. And this would just be a black to white, but I could choose colors too, which is kind of cool. There's all kinds of default ones here. A color overlay is just that. I would change the color of the text. I can uncheck that here, uncheck my gradient overlay as well. Some of these are just effects like an inner glow. If I take a look at what that looks like, it has a default of yellow, so I might want to choose a different color so I can see what that might look like closer. And again, we can affect the inner glow a little bit as far as how opaque it is, or see-through, the size of it, the choke. This isn't doing a whole lot here. Other things we can do, the bevel and emboss feature is kind of cool. It kind of puts like lighting on top of the text, like it's lit up. So if we look at that, I want to keep that relatively small so we can see those reflections. It makes it look three-dimensional. Embossing would mean like the letters stand out and then they're lit up by a different light source. But if we look at that from a distance now, it's kind of a cool effect. All right, so I want to put the same thing down on the bottom except have the author's name. And I could create another text layer here by clicking on text, dragging, and having to repeat that process. But I can also go over here to the Killing Mr. Griffin, right-click on that, and choose Duplicate Layer. And I'm going to name this one Author Name. And now it just doubled up that layer. I'm going to click on the Move tool, and I can move this down to the bottom. And now I'm going to go click my Text tool. Right now it wants to create a new text layer for me, and this is a common mistake. If I click here, it creates another layer. It's not really what I want. I'm going to trash that. What I want, I'm on author name, and I'm on the text tool, is I want to click here where the box goes away and it just gives me a cursor, and that says, yep, I want to edit this layer. So now I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to type the author's name, which is Lois Duncan. Click the Move tool right away because I know I want to move it. And I'm going to drop it in the lower right-hand corner. Okay. And now I need an image to go with this to the graphics point. And I've got something on my desktop that I was kind of playing around with. And it was this picture, I'll minimize this one, of this node chair. And if I grab this, drag it, and drop it here, it's going to bring it right in off the desktop, which is cool. But it's got that white box around it because it was off a Google image. So if I wanted to change that, what would I do? Well, first of all, it's asking me to size it, like make it a certain size. That's what these boxes are for. And if I just grab a corner and drag, you'll notice that I can disproportionately resize it. And if I want it to stay proportional, I just hold the Shift key down. And now when I drag, I can only make it bigger or smaller without skewing it or making it fatter or skinnier than it actually is. Okay, so I'm going to get it to an appropriate size here, like that. And I actually want the text to kind of wrap in here, but I'll work on that later. What I'm going to find is if I put it over my text, that's a problem. And I can send it to the back. So I'm going to confirm this by hitting the Move button and click Place. Okay. And I could make this show up behind my text layer, and that works out cool. But if I do this next thing, which is add a gradient to the whole document, I clicked on the gradient tool over here, go to my background, and I want to add a gradient across this whole thing. Cool, kind of too much though. Let's go. There we go. Now I get this white box here, which is really annoying. And I want to get rid of all the white. So in order to do that in Photoshop, we can use the Magic Wand tool. I'm going to go back to my layer that's called Shopping. And I'm just going to move this out of the way so it's easy for you to see and understand. I'm going to zoom in. Magic Wand tool. Hover over that. Select it. The Magic Wand is going to pick color on the screen that is 32 shades lighter or darker than the area I click in. Well, if I'm clicking on white, It's going to grab everything around here that's white like that. And also it's going to only grab stuff that's contiguous or touching, like the lower 48 states. I'm going to hit delete, and it says, oh, it's a smart object, so it can't be edited. All right, so I'm going to deselect that. I'm going to go under layer and choose rasterize. Don't ask me what rasterize even means, but I just know if we rasterize the smart object, we should now be able to click here and delete. And then click over here and delete. And then I'm going to go into these couple pockets, get rid of this stuff, and we'll see how this does down here. Excuse me, it's a fairly close gray here, so it might have some issues with really clearing this up. But if I zoom in a little bit more,
I have a question.
I can grab pretty much, oop, that's too much. Deselect. Is it a quick iMovie question?
No, it's this. I have this backup on my storage, and it's from my mom's iPad. I don't know if I should delete it or not.
I can help you in about 3 minutes. I'm shooting a tutorial video here. That's okay. And as long as I'm here, so that was the magic wand tool as far as how to get rid of the white background. Here's the eraser tool right now, and I'm just going to go and tune up these edges a little bit. And this image is fairly pixelated. There are some ways to smooth it over, but if we're zoomed out, it's decent, and we're probably going to call that good.